Good morning. I've sat where you sat for the first time. I've been president a couple times in 2009. And then I got to be the district governor after Kyle. And so I was a president after Kyle. I was a district governor after Kyle. And somebody said, "How does that feel?" I said, "I feel like the kid with the shovel following the horses in the fair." It's my honor to introduce our next speaker, Tom Gump. As many in the room already know him, many of you at least heard his name. Uh, the first thing I have to dispel is the rumor that somehow he's related to Forrest Gump, the shrimping tycoon. He's not. Although Tom grew up in Atlanta, which is not far from where some of the scenes that Forrest Gump was filmed, there were similarities that ended there. Because when he was in college, he dreamed of becoming a director of a nonprofit, but ended up taking a job at IBM and then going on to law school. And in fact, his first job out of law school was the assistant district attorney in Gainesville, Georgia. That's what you get for doing interviews online, Tom. In 1996, Tom tried to join Rotary. The local club only allowed one person per classification, and since his boss, the district attorney, was already a member and held the law enforcement classification, he was denied. Of course, we are much more inclusive and welcoming now. And thankfully, Tom returned to Rotary in 2013 after a neighbor invited him to his club about 24 different times. Way to be decisive, Tom. After his first meeting, Tom was hooked, and many people join Rotary for one reason and stay for another, and Tom became a member because he loves that you can make friends. So what more can I say about the great things in Rotary that Tom has accomplished and is set to do in the future that he has not already said of himself? Just ask him, he'll tell you. One aspect that I did learn of Tom is that he's a Facebook junkie and answers every comment. So be smart and be kind when you post, because it might come back to bite you. Given how little extra time Tom has in his schedule to do this, it speaks to the amazing person that he really is. Tom is a member of the Edina Cake Eaters. Oh, Kyle, you shouldn't have put that in. It's the Edina Morningside Rotary Club. Currently, Tom is the aide to the Rotary president, Stephanie Urchik. He is a Rotary director nominee and will be an international director in 2026-28, representing zones 25 and 29. Tom is passionate about growing Rotary membership, as you will hear, and he will chair the Rotary International's Membership Growth Committee in 25-26. He was his club's president in 2016, 2017, district governor in 2020, 21, and he is chairing the host organization committee for the 2028 Rotary International Convention in Minneapolis. And if anybody says they don't have time, go talk to Tom. His favorite part of Rotary is the friends he makes, and I am proud to say he's one of my Rotary friends. So please welcome Tom Gump.
Well,
You'll be hearing about the fourth action plan priority, which is adapt, which is I'm practicing in real life right now. So, and Alexa's going to help me. So, if we had walk-up music, I think my walk-up music should be get by with a little help from your friends. So thanks for being my friends. Okay, so Alexa was talking in a breakout session yesterday about you got to pay your dues, you got to pay your taxes, and that's all important. But if there's one thing that you need to remember as club presidents, you need to aspire to inspire, because I think your number one job is to get the people in your clubs excited. What you're excited about, Mike, you got to be excited, because he told me at our table this morning that he's going to be president again. You're going to be an encore president. You're a president right now? He's a president right now. And Patricia McLeese from your district, who was past district governor, she's president this year too, next year. So you're going to have such a good job as president, you're going to want to do it again. Okay, Mike's right. You may do such a good job, put so much energy in it, you're going to be just happy with what you accomplished. That chapter will be written. They'll remember you as president. That's your legacy in Rotary, and you'll be happy. Either way, this is an important year, and I'm so glad that you're here. This is kind of like your graduation ceremony. When you leave tomorrow, you're going to be ready to be president. Bill's smiling in the front row, but I don't know why. But if I can provide entertainment, that's okay too. So you're going to have a lot of things thrown at you next couple of days, and you're going to say, what do I prioritize? What's the most important thing? We used to have something in Rotary called the three-legged stool. Remember that, Gretchen? Three-legged stool? Where we talked about membership, we talked about public image, we talked about the foundation. Well, Rotary has gone deeper now, and they have something called the action plan. So it's not really a strategic plan. We never say strategic plan, because if you say that to your club, people glaze over. We have the action plan. And I tell you, my president, is my president-elect Mike Anderson here? He's right there. So stand up, Mike. If you have a question for Mike, he could answer this, because our current club president, I went to the convention, like many of you did in Singapore, and Bokar Kane's my current president. And he came back after attending something on the action plan, and every week at our club, he puts up, this is what we're doing in the club that affects the action plan. So why do we have this action plan? Well, first of all, in Rotary, the action plan actually focuses you as a president on what you need to do in your club. But let's start with the vision statement. Rotary has a vision statement. This is where we want to be as Rotary International. All us members want to be. Together, those are the two most important words, because as a president, don't do it all yourself. Could you do it all yourself? Yes. Some people think they could do it better by themselves, but we have participant engagement. It's important to keep our members involved. So together we see a world where people unite, take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. So how do we reach this lofty goal? Well, there's 4 action plan priorities, and we're going to talk about it. But we're not going to talk about it like it was 5 years ago, because that's how long we've had this plan. And for the first few years, it was used successfully at the board of directors and the board of trustees, but it never got to the clubs. So President Stephanie, our current president, she wanted to make sure we get to the clubs. And there's different ways to do it. The best way, because remember we said Rotary happens at the clubs. Doesn't happen anywhere else. So we need to get to the club president. So that's why I'm glad Gretchen has had his curriculum, set it up where the experience you're going to have over the next couple of days evolves around these 4 action plan priorities. So we're not going to talk about the million pieces of data that they used or the focus groups or the history of it. We're going to talk about actual things you can do in your club and take back with you and implement. Because let's face it, no matter how good a speech people give, no matter how good of interaction we have, if you as presidents don't go back to your club and implement this, or come up with other ideas, or steal someone else's ideas and bring them. So please focus on this if you can. Increase our impact. Let's hear what Rotary International has to say about this action plan priority.
Real impact is growth and change that's sustainable long after we have left the scene. As Rotary, how will we do it? we're encouraging clubs to focus their efforts on a few key areas rather than trying to do too many projects. Think about ways you can build on your community's key strengths, do some smart risk-taking, and look for areas where targeted, concentrated work can create a cascade of change. We're creating a culture of measurement in Rotary. By measuring, tracking, and analyzing what we do, by using data and metrics, we can be smarter about what we need to continue doing, start doing, and stop doing. We all know the importance of data in our professional lives and how essential it's been to our progress in polio eradication. But it's also essential to the future of Rotary. Major funding agencies demand evidence and proof of impact. Young people, the future of Rotary, have grown up asking institutions and organizations for greater accountability and transparency. That's why Rotary is identifying consistent best practices for assessment and measurement. Rotary's action plan. What will our legacy be?
What will your legacy be, and what will your legacy as a president be? So impact is all about measurement. Who could tell me when we had President Ian Risley, what was his number one goal? Trees, plant trees. So what we have to know about when we talk about Rotary to other folks, especially people we're attracting into our organization, is we have to talk about the impact. When you plant trees, we counted the number of trees. Well, that's an outcome. We planted 1 million trees. But the impact is we ended deforestation in that area, or we increased the oxidation level. You know, my first trip to an international service project was about 9 years ago to Honduras. And before I went, I was thinking, okay, we have to talk about the number of wells. But when you go there, at first you go to the villages where we've already brought fresh water. And you see little kids in brightly dressed clothes dancing around, all happy, showing you how to wash their hands in the sinks that we built. But then you go to the villages where we haven't yet done a project. And you see a mother holding a baby. Maybe it's her second baby because the first baby died, because 85% of their children die because they get diarrhea because of not having clean water or growing lettuce with bad water. So the outcome is when you do that well, the infant mortality rate isn't no longer 85%, it's 25%. So that's what we need to talk about. That is impact. So the next one we're going to talk about, our next strategic plan priority, is, let's see what Rotary has to say about it. Okay, but before we talk about the second plan priority, let's talk about our number one external priority. Who can tell me what Rotary number one external priority, because you have to know this as a club president? Eradicating polio. And can I have Kyle Haugen stand up one more time? Kyle was actually last year an international award winner for a polio-free world. And his father, Jack, is Jack here, Mary? Okay, Mary, stand up on Jack's behalf. Jack just won our regional award, and very few people in the world win these awards. When Kyle won his, it was like 8 in the world. So they can tell you about this. But the important thing is eradicating polio. But what we're doing is we're building a legacy for Rotary. You know, we have so many partners now because of what we're doing in Rotary. And we often think of Bill and Melinda Gates as our biggest partner because they are monetarily in ending polio. Of course, we couldn't do it without us because these people are the ones who are funding it and spreading it. And But anyway, we're building a legacy. So Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, I guess now it's the Bill Gates Foundation, are actually calling up some of our action groups and actually funding other projects because of this. So it's very important that we do this. We can't get fatigued. But that's our best example as a club president that you can use of the legacy Rotary's giving. And someday, Rotary's going to win the Nobel Prize for eradicating polio. And it's because of all of you and your part that you're using to do that. So the second action plan priority is expanding our reach. The first one, think of foundation. The second one, think of membership and growing membership diversity, different ways to do it. So let's hear what Rotary has to say about it.
At Rotary, we are committed to making people feel welcome and at home in our clubs, programs, and within our leadership. As an organization that is creating stronger communities worldwide, with members in all corners of the globe, Rotary has a responsibility to lead the way. We are exploring and evaluating new participant models so that people can join and take action with us in more convenient ways. We are bringing in outside help, collaborating with local experts on diversity, equity, and inclusion training. It's a great way to forge new kinds of partnerships. And we are being more intentional about giving all members meaningful ways to connect, including them in club planning and decision making, and valuing their contributions. We believe that bringing people together to share different backgrounds, perspectives, and experiences helps us unlock potential and discover new solutions. Now, let's make good on that promise. Let's share our values with new audiences, create new ways to bring people together, and prove we are an organization that's inclusive, engaging, compassionate, and ambitious. Rotary's Action Plan. How can we inspire more people to connect and take action with us?
So expanding our reach. When you think about this is growing Rotary. And I tell you, as a club president, that's one thing you should focus on, because your job as president gets much easier. Like President-elect Mario was saying, when you have more hands and hearts to do service, it gets better. You know, when I was in your spot, they asked us to think of how many people we were going to grow Rotary by in our club. And I came up with a number. But at the end of our year, with the help of everyone in our club, we brought in 31 members into our club. The way we did it was not difficult. We just came up with a system. And the system was, we took the letters of the alphabet and we said, for A, if we don't have an accountant, we're going to get one. B, if we don't have a banker, we're going to get one. I was assigned L, so I brought in a librarian and a landscaper. But it doesn't matter how you do it. When you're president and you're standing at that podium in front of your club, and your friend that you brought in from where you worship or work, or your family member, or where you work out, they're smiling, they're happy, and it's going to make your job easier. And you have so many more people to help you do it. But there's other ways to reach out in your community and bring in more people. What we did in our district was we brought in 5 clubs to form a Rotary Community Corps. And that's when you actually have club members work with people you are serving together as a group to, make something positive happen. We chose the Afghan refugees as our Rotary Community Corps. So we met every 2 weeks at a local place, usually the Community Foundation. And we brought in pizza when it was our club's turn. They brought in ethnic food, usually rice and chicken. And I tell you, we ended up having 300 people every 2 weeks come to this. And you have to ask these people, what do you need? And it was surprising, the answer, because they said, we need cars so we can get jobs and go to work. What's funny, that librarian brought in, she helped because she got us library cards so they could have free internet so they could look for those jobs. And Rotary, when you're president, you're going to be the best connector in your community, because look at your members. You have the mayor, you have the school superintendent, you have all these businesses, and we had businesses come in and give these folks jobs. But they said they wanted to get driver's licenses. Well, unfortunately, in the state of Minnesota, they're not translated, the driver license manuals, into Pashtun and Dari. But luckily, I just brought a friend in who worked for a hedge fund, and he actually translated with the other people's help, the locals, the Afghan refugees, to actually figure this out. And then, so we started getting more people every 2 weeks saying, hey, I got a job, I got a car, I can drive. So, but what happened to Rotary? But you could ask Patrick what things like this do. That engagement actually increased our public image because we'd bring the mayor in. Then state officials wanted to know how they do it. Local businesses, hotels, manufacturing wanted to see if they could hire folks there. So doing these things are expanding our reach into Rotary. And you know what? It didn't cost our club anything. It didn't cost any of the clubs involved, except a little bit of pizza money. So that's just one example. And there's other examples we can talk about later as well. So the third action plan priority is enhancing participant engagement. So let's hear what Rotary has to say about that.
We want everyone who connects with Rotary to feel good about their experience and stay connected. We enhance participant engagement when we meet people where they are. It means being proactive, finding out what matters to them and how they want to be engaged. That's how we become a participant-centered organization. Participants encompasses all Rotary members and all others who engage in Rotary activities. like family members, partners, alumni, and others from the community. So how do we become more participant-focused? 2 words: listen and respond. Ask participants if Rotary is meeting their expectations, how they are hoping to connect and grow through Rotary, what new skills or experiences they want to gain, and how they would like to contribute to creating change in the world. What kinds of projects interest people, and what your community would like to see from Rotary. Then listen to what they say and make delivering on those expectations a priority and your club's goal. That's how we make sure people feel seen, valued, and heard. Because when we do, people will join Rotary and stay, so we can do even more real and lasting good in the world. Rotary's Action Plan. What would improve your Rotary experience?
Enhancing participant engagement. Rotary International does a couple surveys every year. We do an all-member survey because they want to know what our members think about. They also do a leadership survey. They ask the presidents, which will be you next year, and they ask the district governors questions. And the one they always ask is, out of these 4 action plan priorities, which do you care about most? And presidents say they care about this one, enhancing participant engagement. Now, every word in the vision statement and the action plan was chosen for a reason. They used the word participants. They could have used Rotaractors, they could have used Rotary, they could have used members, but they said participants. And why participants? Because participants are not only our members, it's everyone that we touch, everyone we affect. Rotary Community Corps, they were participants. The Youth Exchange students, they are participants. I love seeing this booth out here with Rotary Youth Exchange because those are passionate Rotarians about that. So, why are participants important? I'll tell you a little story. And it's important when you're a president to tell stories, and you have good stories. And believe in yourself that your stories are good. If you think they're not good, sure, you can go to the Rotary magazine, you get stories there, but stories help communicate to your members, and it gets them excited about things. Believe in your stories because they're good. So that's, on the right is my son Andrew a few years ago, and that was Paco. So my family's been blessed to find Rotary, and we've also been blessed to find Rotary Youth Exchange. And Paco was a student that came to live with us when he was 16 years old. And he had a little brother, Danny, who was 10 at the time, a little sister, Sarah, who was 6. And Paco was the ideal youth exchange students. Most of them are really good, but Paco was always smiling, always happy, went to class. Every once in a while you get one that doesn't show up to class and you get a phone call, but to class. He was star of the local soccer team because he played on the international team for his age in Valencia, Spain. And then one morning, 2 weeks after he started living with us, I went down to our sunroom and he was just crying uncontrollably, just sobbing, and he couldn't stop. And he couldn't tell me why. So I picked up the phone and I called Anna, his mom, and I said, what's wrong with Paco? He won't stop crying. And Paco found out that his father died. So I said, don't worry, Catherine, who's my wife, we'll jump on a plane, we'll take Paco home. And she said, no, he's to stay with you, and he's going to live with you for the whole year. You're supposed to change every 3 months. So I said, okay, whatever you want, but can we fly you and Sarah and Danny here? So we did, and they came, and Paco's mom took Catherine aside and let us know that Paco's father died via suicide. Yeah. And so it was hard news to take. And so Paco, who, he was 16 years old, and the psychologists always tell us, and any of you who have teenagers, they see the world egocentrically. Everything evolves around them and their actions. So Paco was blaming himself for his father's death. And of course, they couldn't have a funeral for him because, remember, I'm Catholic. Well, Catholics in Spain consider that to be a condition where you can't have a funeral for someone. And that's why Paco's mom didn't want him to come home, and she didn't want him to miss the experience of being with all these Rotarians in the youth exchange experience. So we decided that we were going to have a service at our church. Our church was a little bit more liberal, and they were fine. Take it if you need to. We're all in friends, and it's a friendly audience, so whatever you need. So we get there that night, and my church's glass was on top, and it was just lightning going off. It was just amazing. And it was a storm. And Paco's father was a professional juggler. If you go look up Circuspedia, and that's a real deal, Circuspedia, he was like the world's best juggler. So we had videos playing of him juggling and stuff. But when I walked in the church, there were close to 300 people there. There were people from all the districts around here. And it gave me a feeling, it came to me that I'm in the right place in Rotary. It's not just a club, it's a family. And throughout the rest of the year, my club members and my friends in other districts would help. They would bring their dog over because Paco missed his dog. And he ended up, and it ends up being a happy story. Paco took up 3 things he always wanted to do: bike, snowboard, and piano. But the fact is, Rotary affected that participant. And we talked about, polio. That's us around the world. We talked about the communities. I was touched at Prior Lake the night before last. They had their foundation banquet, and hearing all the things that club does to raise money for all these wonderful things. But Rotary changes us too, and it changed me through that experience. So find your stories like that and tell them at your club level. And don't be afraid. When I was president, I was always thinking that what I had to say wasn't important. And so I would use other people's stories. And then what I found out is people want to know, are you married? Do you have kids? What's your interests? So like Alexa did in her presentation yesterday, she told about herself. Your club members want to know about you. So share yourself with them, and you'll be surprised how good the connection is when you do that. So the next action plan priority is expanding our reach. And don't worry if you don't know how to work a clicker. You can still advance in Rotary. If you don't. Increasing our ability to adapt. So what does Rotary have to say about that?
To be leaders in this time of accelerating change, we need to become more agile and responsive to what's relevant to communities. It's a big opportunity for Rotary and for all of us who are proud to be people of action. We can look at how our ability to communicate effectively, share resources, work collaboratively, and make decisions might be challenged by our operations or structures. We're working on streamlining our structure to fix the disconnects between clubs, districts, zones, and headquarters. We're discovering more of what's possible when we work together, not just as a collection of clubs, but a true global network of change makers. We don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. We can collaborate, partner, and be the place that connects people and organizations to get more accomplished. What can you do? Take a fresh look at your club. Is it time to peel away some of the layers you've added over the years and simplify how you operate? Invite community leaders outside of Rotary to your club board meeting to offer a new perspective. Adapting is also looking for new ways to collaborate with new partners who share our values and commitment, but who can challenge and help us innovate and do more. Rotary is embedded and trusted within communities. It's what attracts potential partners who want to work with us. When we embrace opportunities to streamline, reimagine, and reinvigorate, we will see we can stay true to ourselves and stay ahead of change. Rotary's action plan. How can new perspectives strengthen Rotary?
Adapting, changing. It's very important, and it's going to be the hardest thing that you have to do as a president because it takes courage to do it. Jerry Norton, can you stand up? I didn't call on you because you were looking at your phone, I promise. Jerry is president-elect of the largest club in my district, the Edina Club. And they make $100,000 in rough numbers every year from having their gala. You can sit down, thank you. So, every few years I get a call from someone from Jerry's club, and they're saying, Tom, it's time for the gala again. I want to do something different. I don't want to go to a hotel. And they're very successful. They raise all this money. I want to do something different. I want to have food trucks. I want to do taste from around the countries with food trucks, things like that. Well, I tell you, it's hard to stand up and make a change because when Jerry's president, he's probably going to be thinking and want to change. But what is he going to be thinking? Maybe not Jerry because he's more confident than I am. But he may say, what if I don't raise that $100,000? What if my club doesn't have $100,000 to give out to local charities because they raise it that year, they give it away that year? I will tell Jerry, and he can kill me later, try something different. We have to do that in Rotary. If we we've been around we just celebrated our 120th anniversary. Why have we done that? Because we've been successful. Why? Because we change. I remember a few years ago, we were in NCPETS in Ames, Iowa, and a speaker didn't show, so I was plugged in as a last-minute speaker. And so I thought, I want to know what these people are going to do, because remember I said it's important to listen, come up with some ideas, share those ideas, but go back and implement them. So I went around and I asked every president, we didn't have this many there, and I said, what's the one change you're going to make? And they had big, Mike Becker's word, audacious goals, and I thought that's really cool. And I got to one guy, and I'll never forget his name. His name is Troy. And I asked Troy, what change are you going to make? And he said, have pie. And I said, you're going to have pie? He goes, yes, for dessert, I want pie, because we have desserts at our club. And I think if I have pie. It's a true story. I wish I could make this stuff up, but I didn't. And he said, if we have pie, I know we'll get more members. So I said, okay. And I tried not to laugh, but it was hard not to, because everybody was laughing. So I ran into Troy a few years later and I said, did you get your pie? So I always call him Troy guy, because his name tag just said Troy. I didn't know what his name was. So he got his pie as year as president, but he said, Tom, the strangest thing happened is after we got pie and most people liked it, people start bringing me other ideas for changes. And we implemented some of those. So they actually went from a club that was resistant to change, didn't ever want to change. President Steffi says no one likes change except maybe a baby with a wet diaper. It's true. I didn't say Rotarian, I said baby. But they went from being a club that resisted change to being an innovative club, accepting change, and now they're the second largest club in their district. So change is important, but it takes courage. And, if it doesn't work, you can try something new. But staying the same, like President-elect Mario said, you can't stay the same. You're either growing or you're dying, and that's the two choices. So that's kind of the action plan. But what's happening new in Rotary is we have 3-year rolling goals. And in Rotary, it's interesting, if you go to enough committee meetings and things like that, realize that up until this year, Rotary had 9 different kind of programs where they had goals. The CEO had a set of goals. The staff had a set of goals. The directors had a set of goals. And of course, there are regional goals and district goals and club goals. But none of them matched up. So now, what they've done is they've decided, and I'm going to skip the rest of the slide because I don't want to bore you, but they decided to have 3-year rolling goals. And it's interesting. Who can tell me what watch sporting event is in the world? Soccer, the FIFA World Cup match. Everyone tunes in to watch that. Could you imagine if we had all these people running around kicking the soccer ball, no goals at the end? It'd be kind of funny not to have any goals. Well, think of that as a club president. You need to set goals. I was appreciative to my district governor a long time, Mark Hagstrom, who said, pick your number of people you're going to grow. And it's interesting because I actually, in my mind, I said 31, but I was afraid to say that because I thought people would laugh at me. And so I said 7. Ended up getting 31. I thought that was weird. But if you set goals, it motivates you, it keeps you focused. So 3-year rolling goals aren't difficult to do as they should be. Because when you set goals before, to give you an example, for international convention, they asked the district governors how many people are going to come from your districts. And they used to just ask that question, and nobody would turn the goals in. Then they realized if they turn in the last 3-year goals, then you could help make a goal. And so now, when they ask Governor-elect Shockey how many people are going to come at IA, he's able to look back and say, oh, we had 80, I'm going to shoot for 100. And try to make them realistic goals. Don't shoot for 20 because you want to be the highest from where your goal is or something like that. Pick a realistic goal, but it should be easy because you can see what the people are doing before and after you. Do we have time for questions? Does anyone have a question that they need answered? A burning desire? That's something you need to know? Do you sleep? That's a very good question that I'm not going to answer directly, but I'll tell you this. As a president, please, I'm going here to Syracuse, and I get to do a rah-rah speech. I don't have to talk about action plan or anything. And I used an acronym called ASPIRE, where every letter stands for something. And the one thing I can tell you as a president is sleep and enjoy it. And make it Make it be fun. Don't think of this as a bunch of obligations you have to do. Talk to the past presidents here and the Encore presidents. They'll tell you you'll do a better job and you'll connect better with people if you actually enjoy it. I bring my wife and son along on the journey. When we would do fun things, if we go to Pasadena to put flowers in the Rose Bowl parade float, but I always spent time with my family and friends, and I realized that the people that I ended up joining my club were my friends from church. They were my friends from work. They were my friends that I work out with, and that's how I initially got into Rotary. So rest, and if you think you have too much going on, involve the other members in your club, because when you involve them, they're going to feel needed. They're going to feel like they belong, and they'll bring in other people. So definitely sleep. That's important. We want you around to be assistant governor and then governor. So. Yes, sir. Paco's doing great. And it's funny how these people, I was telling you, they change your life. The first weekend Paco was there, we had to go to a paint store to buy a can so we could put weights in a rubber band because he had to make that can roll across on its own. And he said, I'm going to be an engineer. And I smiled, because I'm thinking in my mind, you don't have any idea what you're going to be, 8 years from now. He is now in his last year at the university. He has got an internship with an engineering company. It's a French company, but he gets to work in Valencia with his mom, and he's doing great. And I tell you, we had 7 long-term exchange students. We are friends with 6 of the 7 still. Catherine had a conflict with a boy from India. He had a mother and some servants, and my wife won't do that. So, but I tell you, these things affect your members and they affect you, and we're all better people for being in Rotary. Yes, sir. So the concern is over presidential burnout, and that is something that is a concern. I tell you, for Rotary to continue going the way it is, we need to have good, healthy people. We need you as a president to rely on others. I know you can do the newsletter. I know you can schedule speakers. I know you can do everything that a president does, but please get help from others. It might not be the quickest, it might not be the easiest, but it's the best way. And you could avoid burnout by getting along with a little help from your friends, and rely on your assistant governor, rely on me. Whoever you need, we are there to help you. And to tell you the truth, your club members want you to succeed. Every time you get up into that podium, we want you to do a good job. It'll be better for them, it'll be better for you. Get some friends and get some help. Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. So, but on behalf of our committee, we have a small little gift for coming and speaking. So
Thank you.
safe travels.
Can I open it up so they can see what it is?
I think Mike might have taped it and
Okay.
booby trapped it for you.
Okay. Thank you.